Chapter 4 in the Feldman text looks at states of consciousness. So we're going to be exploring the different ways in which our brain helps us develop and maintain an awareness of the world around us. We'll also look at situations when our awareness is altered because of things like sleep, dreams, and other things that can affect how our mind is able to perceive the world in different ways, at odds with our perception during normal day-to-day waking periods. We need to start first, though, by defining what we mean by the idea, the concept of consciousness. Consciousness refers to the awareness of sensations, thoughts, feelings that we have just by existing, by being alive. Our normal state, our normal alert state, is just our waking consciousness, the state that we're in during that part of our life when we consider ourselves to be walking around, interacting with other humans, living our lives. But among the altered states that we can also find ourselves in are sleep, and that includes dreams, possibly. Also, our consciousness can be altered or changed because of drugs, or in just to name one additional example, in cases where we might be hypnotized. We'll explore that further as we go along. It's important to understand that research has identified 4 stages of sleep that are shared by all humans. So if you're a human and you're falling asleep or are asleep, these 4 stages are universal. Stage 1 is called the light sleep transition. This is the state where you're starting to fall asleep. You're not quite fully awake, but you're not really deeply asleep. So, for example, although you are starting to your alertness, your awareness of the world around you starts to diminish, something like loud noise, thunder. If you're falling asleep and there's a thunderstorm that starts, um, someone knocking on the door of your bedroom, calling for you, an alarm going off, your phone going off, a phone call or a text or whatever. Um, those kinds of intrusions can still pull us out of sleep because we're not really deep into it. We can still come out of the sleep state fairly quickly. Stage 2 is a deeper state of sleep, characterized by spindles, which your reading describes in more detail. But as a reminder, spindles refers to the sets of, or the batteries of certain brainwave patterns. These brainwaves that are characteristic of falling into deep sleep. Obviously, we ourselves directly are not necessarily conscious of these spindles, but if we were hooked up to an EKG or some other apparatus, those apparatus could confirm that we are experiencing these brainwave patterns that again are indicative of this stage of sleep. The deepest sleep state is stage 3, uh, and also sort of between roughly stage 2 and 3, um, both coming into sleep and falling out of sleep, is the REM state, REM, rapid eye movement, and this is the period where dreaming tends to take place. So again, the takeaway here is that we may think of sleeping as kind of the opposite of being awake, which I guess it's true. That's true so as far as it goes, but also just be cognizant that sleeping itself comprises different stages. Why do we sleep? This is an area that's been of interest, as you can imagine, to researchers and others as long as humans have been alive. In recent decades, research has found a number of explanations for why we sleep. The first and most obvious one, probably all of us can relate to, is energy conservation. Um, Remember that our ancestors in the distant past, when humans first evolved, not only didn't have electricity, they didn't know how to use fire, how to start fires. So never mind not having a flashlight, our distant ancestors didn't even have torches. In not during nighttime, compared to other living creatures, human senses are not very good. We evolved to really be very dependent on our sight. Unlike other living creatures, especially predators, canine predators, feline predators, our night sight is not very good. Our sense of hearing, sense of smell are not very good, again, compared to other living creatures. So when it's dark and we don't have light available, and again, our ancestors did not have lighting available, they didn't have uh, torches or flashlights. It's hard to get around. It's just hard to physically navigate when it's dark. It's safer to sit still. It's safer to try and restrict your activity when it's too dark to see. So our bodies kind of learned to take advantage of these hours of darkness to help us kind of recharge our batteries. Related to that is this process or phenomenon of brain restoration. This refers to the fact that the experiences we have during the day, during our waking hours, things we learn don't automatically just kind of get plugged into our brains and remain there forever after. There is a processing that has to take place, and especially in terms of building memories, consolidating memories, taking information that's new to us and synthesizing it with prior information already in our brains, especially in our long-term memory. Um, our brains take advantage of kind of the downtime that comes with sleep to do a lot of this mental processing and memory consolidation. The point here is that if you have trouble sleeping or are not practicing good sleep habits on purpose because you're going out, staying up, doing whatever, besides maybe physical feelings of fatigue that can come from that, you may also actually affect your cognition. You may affect, among other things, your memory formation. Most people on average need 7 or 8 hours of sleep. That's during the whole lifespan. Frequently, younger humans, children, teenagers in particular, often benefit from more than 8 hours, even maybe more than 9 hours. Older adults, especially people in late middle age, elderly people, often can make do with fewer than 7 hours. That's very common. But for most people, 7 or 8 hours is a good average, and that's what we need in order to be able to conserve energy, consolidate memories, and also finally the process of physical rejuvenation, in particular with younger people, but even at all stages of life. Um, Things like recovering from exercise or physical exertion, our bodies again count on this downtime to be able to start to reset ourselves physically to get ready for the next day. A number of sleep problems have been identified. Some of these related to the functions or the outcomes of dreams. Let's look at these separately. Um, in terms of sleep disorders, a very common one is insomnia, which is difficulty sleeping. Many people have trouble. In fact, most people have trouble sleeping every now and then. But if you have trouble sleeping so frequently, so regularly that it affects your day-to-day life, that is a signal that you probably want to speak to a medical professional to try and evaluate what's going on. Sleep apnea is a problem that tends to generally affect more middle age and older people, but it can affect people at any age, theoretically. This is breathing problems that come during sleep. Our bodies will stop breathing for reasons I'm going to here because of the sleep apnea. And so when you start to sort of choke because you're not breathing, your body will wake itself up. And so you come out of the deeper stages of sleep and have to go back into those deeper stages after you start breathing again. So this over the long term, this can affect the quality of the sleep you get, and also sometimes cause even other health problems. Narcolepsy is a syndrome characterized by sudden sleep episodes. This is separate from the phenomenon all of us have experienced of you may have a day or two where you don't get enough sleep because of whatever things happening in life. You're traveling, you don't feel well. You have some other illness that maybe makes it hard to sleep. Um, and so, naturally during the day, because you didn't get enough sleep the night before, during the day you feel tired. That's a separate phenomenon. Narcolepsy is a syndrome where deep sleep comes upon you. You don't want to sleep. You're trying to be awake, but the syndrome just causes you to shift into a deep sleep state. So this can obviously have serious repercussions on people's lives if they're not able to manage it with medical intervention. Finally, another example is night terrors, feelings of extreme fear during sleep. Again, the reading goes into more detail. I don't want to discuss it too deeply here, other than to say um, that whether it's night terrors or these other disorders, it's easy when you're not having these problems to kind of think, well, if you miss, you lose a little sleep now and then or whatever, not too big of a deal. But the reality is, sleep is often much more vital for us than we often acknowledge or recognize. And being casual about getting sleep, can often lead to problems when you're not getting enough sleep. Looking at dreams, what are the common functions of dreams? Why do we dream? What's the cause of dreams? Um, Really, the most common cause is just random brain activity. Humans are bad at just accepting that sometimes things happen for no particular reason. But when it comes to dreams, a lot of times they happen for no particular reason. There is not necessarily some deep, dark cause underlying them. It's just kind of the random firing of neurons that happens when we're asleep, and that causes these dreams to take place. Um, Going back to the earlier point that I made, again, because of the importance of sleep in terms of helping us consolidate memories and physically rejuvenate and so forth. To some degree, a lot of our just basic survival as humans is very dependent on the sleep state, and sort of as an extension of that, dreaming is related to that process of um, processing information, uh, recharging our batteries, metaphorically speaking, as humans. So in that sense, dreams serve that function. Again, as I've previously mentioned, new experiences, new learning often needs to be synthesized with existing knowledge in order to finally make it to our long term memory. That can happen as a function of dreaming. And yes, in some cases, it's probably the most common thing that a lot of people will discuss or think about. Um, you may have dreams that are nightmares or negative, scary kinds of dreams that can be a reflection of stress or anxiety that you're feeling in your day to day life. I'm not going to go into detail here, but the reading describes a number of psychoactive drugs that exist. Psychoactive meaning um, a drug, a compound that affects our cognition. Stimulants are one category. Caffeine, nicotine are popular examples. Depressant and stimulants will increase nervous system activity. Depressants, in contrast, slow down the activity of our nervous system. Alcohol and barbiturates are examples there. Narcotics or opioids. Narcotics are often interchangeably called opioids because this family of drugs called narcotics are all related, and they come from the opium poppy, a plant that that is grown in many parts of the world. And if you crush the bulb of this opium plant, the part that eventually becomes a flower, before it becomes a flower, you get this gooey sort of gel. It kind of looks like shampoo to me. I've seen it in labs and in documentaries. And this opium goo itself has narcotic properties. It can provide pain relief. In fact, it was used as a pain reliever by physicians and surgeons going back thousands of years. Um, it can also cause feelings of euphoria, and for that reason, opium can be abused as a drug. In recent times, going back about 200 years, chemists and pharmacists learned how to distill or concentrate opium to create different compounds, such as morphine, which is, again, a painkiller anesthetic. It's even to this day frequently used in medical applications. Um, Other derivatives of the opium poppy include heroin, fentanyl. Um, so these again act in the central nervous system. They can provide pain relief, but they can also create euphoria that becomes addictive. Finally, the reading talks about hallucinogens. So again, these are compounds or drugs that change the way in which we perceive the world around us. Marijuana is a common example. LSD, which is an artificial compound originally created in a lab. It can alter our consciousness, create hallucinations. MDNA, sometimes called Molly on the street. Um, Again, another compound that changes the way that we perceive the world around us. And to the degree that that changed perceptions for some individuals, again, causes euphoria or is seen as desirable, that can be the root cause of abuse of that drug. Let's wrap up here by just reviewing the altered states that have been identified. Ultimately, they come from the 24-hour cycle. Our brain has a structure in the front called the SCN, supra charismatic nucleus, I believe. If I don't butcher that, it'll be in your reading. Um, but or SCN for short. But the SCN basically is a part of the brain that controls our circadian rhythm or the cycle of day and night that humans have evolved to operate within. So, for example, it's perfectly natural for humans to feel sleepy in early mid-afternoon. Our ancestors in the distant past, again, before we had electricity and air conditioning, um, when it got hot in the middle part of the day, early afternoon, um, it got tougher to do physical stuff, whether it was hunting, gathering food supplies, or whatever. So humans evolved to kind of get sleepy during that time period. You get a little bit of rest, trying, kind of get in the shade during the hottest part of the day. It's safer. You're not exerting yourself and risking things like heat stroke. You're also conserving your energy to be able to use it during times of day when you might be able to be more productive because the weather, the temperature, or all the above are a little nicer. And yet, of course, modern society, hard to take a nap in the middle of the workday. So many people kind of feel a slump in the afternoon in terms of their energy level. This doesn't mean they're bad people. There's something wrong with them. They don't care about their work or whatever. It just means you're human. Your natural rhythm of the day, it doesn't happen to be a good match for whatever your work is. Um, Another altered state of consciousness can be brought on by meditation, where we kind of try and purposely focus our attention in such a way that we can drown out or set aside other things that may be causing us stress or distraction. Again, the reading goes in more detail about meditation and its benefits, how it can be used. Finally, hypnosis, a widely misunderstood altered state. Again, I'm going to go into a lot of detail here because the reading talks more about it. But by putting yourself or having someone help you get into this trance state, um, you're kind of leaving behind your consciousness of the world around you and going to a state where you could be more susceptible to uh, having your behavior affected or even directed by other people. Um, Hypnosis can be sometimes overstated, um, but I encourage you to look at that part of the reading carefully because I think it is going to discuss some interesting aspects of this particular altered state. All right, to conclude the discussion here, understanding consciousness and the various states of consciousness exist, whether it's sleep, dreams, altered states that come from ingesting different psychoactive drugs. They help us understand how our minds naturally cycle through these different stages or modes of awareness. And understanding this can help us make informed decisions about our sleep habits, about substance use, and about other kinds of practices in terms of our mental health that can help maximize our well being. This concludes the presentation.